students. Morning, I mean good morning. So before we proceed pala, let me first lead the prayer. So for the Catholic name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you, Lord, for this day, Lord God. Guide us as we go along in our learnings. May your wisdom be with us, and these new learnings will help us in our future, in our careers. It will help us, Lord. Be with us and always bless us and our families. All these things we ask in your most holy name. Amen. Father, Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen. So, class, what I want you to do for the attendance, okay? By the way, am I audible? Can you hear me? Is my voice clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. So what I want you to do is that for you to be able to record it as present in our attendance, I want you to type in the chat box your surnames. Okay, yung mga apelyido po natin, i-type po natin sa chat box para malaman natin na we are attending. So please type in now po in the chat box your surnames, yung mga apelyido po natin for me to know that you are present in my class. Thank you. Now to proceed, let me first give my rules in terms of the classroom, virtual classroom setting. So in this case, I know and I understand that you guys are having hard time in terms of internet connection. So that would be okay that your cameras are off, and as much as possible, kung pwede siya on, and you can also turn on. It's not recommended or required to open your cameras, but as much as possible, it would be better if you would open your camera so that I can monitor you guys. And then with regards to your microphones, I know that you already know about it. You have to mute your mic if you're not the one who's speaking, and also you can also chat in the type box. I actually encourage you guys to participate well in my class in terms of the discussion. If you have questions, do not hesitate to actually ask questions. If you wanted to like directly include you, you can unmute your mic, and you could also chat in the if you are hesitant to speak, you can also chat in the chat box. You can type in the chat box for it to be recognized. So let's proceed. Are you guys okay? Are you guys with me? Am I going too fast or just okay? Are you okay with the way how I speak? Am I going too fast? Can I receive responses from you guys? Class?
Okay lang po, sir.
Okay, thank you so
Okay
much.
lang.
Well, let me first share my screen. By the way, guys, before we proceed with our formal lesson, formal discussion, I will be showing you some pictures, okay? And in this picture, you will be in this picture you are to describe. You are to describe actually this picture in one word, okay? So I recommend you to type in the chat box whatever descriptions you can incur to the following pictures as I will be flashing. Okay, is my screen visible to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you. So while waiting, okay, are you ready? Can I get response from you guys? So you already know.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's good. You already know what to do. You are to type in. Okay, what you're gonna do is that to type in your description to a particular picture that I'll be flashing to you. It could be a word or it could be a phrase. It could be a phrase or phrases. Okay, are we clear with that?
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for the active responses. Now let's proceed. Okay, what can you describe? What description can you give to this picture? To this first picture? You can type in the chat box right now. I'll probably giving you around just 10 seconds to type in your answers. Okay, what description can you give to this picture? We have here structure from Jonathan. Thank you for that answer. So we already have the another picture. Okay guys, anyone can type in the answer to the description. How about this picture? Skeleton. That's good. Next. How about this one? Okay. No response yet. Skyways. That's great. Okay, let's proceed. How about this one? Okay. No response yet. Muscular system. Okay. Can I get another description other than muscular system? It's about something human anatomy. Well, okay. Thank you for those answers. Now let's proceed. This is the last picture. What can you say about this picture? In this case, there are labels, or there are names of these pictures right here. So you can type
Different.
in. Yes, who's that? You may speak.
Different type of cell, sir.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Faustino, for speaking. Yes, that's right. Okay, you can so be mindful guys of what are the things that you mentioned regarding those descriptions, because we will be discussing those things will be utilized later on in our discussion. So be mindful of those things. So let me ask you this question. Would the plasma membrane and the cytoplasm be the only component left if the organelles were removed from a cell? Okay, if you have already in your mind what we are gonna be discussing right now, I'm giving you this guide question. So I know that this is very long, but let me expound and let me uh, ex, uh, elaborate it to you. So, what would the plasma membrane and cytoplasm be? Would the plasma membrane and cytoplasm be the only components left in the organelles if the organelles were removed? So guys, try to imagine if this, for you to be able to answer, let me elaborate. So if you are going to remove these organelles in the cells, is it is it the membranes and the cytoplasms will be left, or are there any other structures that can be um will be left in here? What do you think? Yes or no? So according to Jonathan, thank you for the answer. Yes. Yes. Okay, let's see. There is a thing that we can see that we cannot actually see in a compound microscope when viewing this particular cell, and we can just see most often these organelles. But however, this structure in here that what we'll be discussing later on is pretty much more not visible in a compound microscope. So to proceed, to give you further understanding of what we are talking right now, let me actually show this video to you.
If you take a look at most drawings of a cell and the cell organelles, a major component is usually missing, the cytoskeleton. Welcome to Moo Math and Science and the cytoskeleton. As the name implies, it is the skeleton of the cell. Well, kinda. The cytoskeleton of a cell is a network of filaments running throughout the cell. The cytoskeleton has several different jobs. First, it helps provide support, much like your skeleton provides support for your cell. It provides tracks or highways for the movements of vesicles and other objects in the cell. It helps pull the chromosome apart during mitosis and even helps the cell move. Some single-cell organisms have cilia made up of cytoskeleton filament. The cytoskeleton consists of three types of fibers: microfilaments, intermediate filaments, and microtubules. Microfilaments are fine thread-like proteins, fibers. They are composed predominantly of a protein called actin. These filaments create surface highways for the vesicles that need to be moved in the cell, and may even hold organelles in place. Intermediate fibers are medium in length and they help maintain the shape of the cell. For example, a red blood cell has a unique donut shape. The cytoskeleton filaments help produce this unique shape. And finally, microtubules are the largest filaments and also create tracks for proteins. Think of the microtubules as roads in the cell. They also help pull the chromosomes apart during mitosis. Microtubules also help with the movement of the entire cell by creating flagella or cilia that helps propel certain cells.
Okay, there we go. So what we were talking about a while ago, with all the descriptions that we have, we're actually talking about cytoskeleton. So I know that in a previous lesson, in your previous lesson, you discussed already regarding about cell structures, and you have not yet met this topic, and this one I will be discussing to you right now. Cytoskeleton. It is actually the structure or very the support that gives the one that gives support to the cell for it to be able to meet its shape, and it also actually helps the cell wherein it helps the cell in terms of its movement. So there are different types of cells, different kinds of cells with different shapes and um different formations, and these are brought and are because and due to the cytoskeleton. Okay, the word cytoskeleton, the cyto means cell, so it is actually a term. Cyto means cell, and this is just a typical term, cyto, other term for cell, while the skeleton serves as the structure, or it is some sort of support. It equivalent it is equivalent to the word support or structure. So that's clear. In this case, you can see that the cytoskeleton is condensed in the cell, where it gives support and structure for the organelles to be positioned or to actually carry out their functions. So you can see in the cells that in a normal cell that we can see in a 2D illustration, this cytoskeleton is not visible due to the fact that this is not really visible in a compound microscope. However, if we try to view this in a more higher and powered instrument such as the electron microscope, so this will give us this view wherein the very detailed of these cytoskeletons are very visible. The next, so let me show to you this one. So we have three types, okay, three types of cytoskeleton. So these cytoskeletons are varies in terms of their size, in terms of their functions, and in terms of their position in the cell. So if you can see, we have here if it's not visible, let me read it to you. The microtubules. So this is the microtubules, a type of cytoskeleton which is actually bigger than the other cytoskeletons, other than the other two cytoskeletons. and this one is actually around 20 to 25 nanometer. Imagine that. That's very small. And then we have here the intermediate filament. So this intermediate filament is also a cytoskeleton that is not actually, it's actually a static one. It does not actually move. It's a steady one compared to the other two. So other than the intermediate filament, we also have the microfilament. So we will be discussing that later on a very detailed scale. So we have first the microfilaments. So this microfilaments is composed of filamentous actin. These are proteins that are bind to form a actin. These actin monomers are bind together to form a chain of structure, polymerized actin. So this actin, this microfilaments, is one of the um, this is one of the cytoskeleton that's actually dynamic. So when we say dynamic, it causes the cell to move. Okay, so if we try to take a look at this structure, the possible position of these microfilaments are around near the cell membrane. So this allows the cell to carry out the function of the other organelles. So next we have the microtubules. This microtubules, what I was saying a while ago, this is the bigger one. It actually composes of two components, which are the alpha tubulin and the beta tubulin. If you can see it right here. So are you guys still with me? Can I get response?
Yes.
Okay, are we on the same track? Are you understanding what I'm trying to share to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's great. Okay, proceed to this microtubules with its subparts, which are alpha and beta tubulins, are bind together to form a tubulin dimer, and these tubulin dimers are merged together to form a three protofilaments, and these protofilaments creates a very long bundles of these microtubules, with actually a very long one in terms of it in the cell. If you can see, this is the cell, and these different elongated things are the microtubules. So its function, so this one, the probably this is somehow a green, kind of like blue green color. It is the centrosomal microtubules, and we also have the non-centrosomal microtubules. So these are the indicators. So the function of this is to actually help the cell in terms of its movement, especially in the cell division. This is very essential in cell division. Okay, the microtubules is very useful during cell division, or what we call the mitosis, the cell division of a somatic cell. Whereas whenever these centrioles are positioned, these microtubules are extending, and then they're trying to separate and create a cleavage furrow in the middle. So I cannot illustrate that very well because I lacked illustration. You just try to imagine, and then it actually creates another cell. So I think I'm running out of time, so let's proceed. So we have the intermediate filament. So this intermediate filament is the one that I was saying, it is actually a static, or it doesn't move. It is basically, if you try to imagine, try to squish a sponge and it turns back to its original position. So basically, they are the structures that are not moving. So by the way, class, the microfilaments and the microtubules, these are dynamic. So just remember that they are dynamic in terms of their structure, because microtubules and microfilaments are actually moving. So the way how they move is that they are creating themselves. So that is what we call, there is actually a term there where in the microtubules creates itself to allow the cell to allow the cell to move or to extend its shape, while the microfilaments is responsible for the movement, most especially on the internal part of the cell. So this is the overview, okay, the description. You can just screenshot that one. So I have no more time already, so I hope you guys have listened to have understood and have grasped even a little of my discussion. Thank you so much. By the way, let me just give you my, I actually failed to,
Right side, right. So kanan.
okay.
Ensure.
Okay, there you go. So guys, for our, I know that it lacks time and it's very, it's not an ideal moment wherein we experience a lot of things. So okay, so let me just send to you my assessment, okay, for you to be able to answer some questions regarding our topic. So guys, do you have any questions, or do you want to share something, uh other additional inputs with what we have discussed just a while ago? Class, do you have any questions or inputs? Hello? Hello, class?
No, sir. No, far so.
Okay, thank you so much. So just wait for a little while, guys. I'm sending the link for your assessment, so it will be your class 10. So I'll just be sending the link of this, of our assessment, so you can answer that even after we dismiss, because we're running out of time. So please answer this assessment. So any question, guys? Okay, you don't have any questions already. I hope that you've learned something what I've discussed, and yeah, and I think that's it. Thank you so much for listening.